Hello everybody, welcome back to another Squaremore video. Today, as you can see, we have a tier list, but it's not any tier list, it is a championship prediction list. Now what this pretty much is, quite self-explanatory. Champion, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, blah 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 blah, up to 90th and 20th. However, that will technically be something else, but I can't be asked to put another driver in here. I think you might know who that is based off all the supposed rumours already before the season's actually started. I'm recording this just after Australia's practice 1 and 2. Not much really more to say than that, other than let's get on with this. I will admit, I'll do it from the bottom to the top, or do I do it driver by driver? I'm going to do driver by driver because that probably is just going to be easier for me. It's all set up in alphabetical order by the looks of it in terms of surname. So let's start off with Alex Albon. Alex Albon for the season I have in 12th place. Now, personally, whether Williams is actually at this season has been really hard to tell. I think Williams obviously have a very good driver lineup between Sainz and Albon. I think this is a make or break year for Albon. If Albon is not close to Sainz, this is Albon's career over, done with completely. Not much more to say than that. 12th is where I'm having him. You'll find out who's 11th in a bit. I think he will be the second best driver in the team, or I guess the worst, but that's probably because I think Sainz is has a much higher quality of a driver. I think he'll have like the odd good result. I think he could get like a top 5 or maybe even 2 or 3, or based off whatever happens with the big 4. I'm going to call them. I think you know exactly who that is. But yeah, I think he will have some good standout races. I think, yeah, he's just got to kind of keep to a close-ish level. It doesn't have to beat Sainz. It doesn't have to be bang on with Sainz. It doesn't need to be like nose to in the rear every single race. He just needs to be there or thereabouts. And then I think he'll be able to have a further future in F1. Maybe another team will get him. Maybe Cadillac will go for him. We'll see. Next up, we have Mr. Alonso. Mr. Alonso is, in my eyes, going to be in 9th place. The Aston Martin has been another tough to predict car, but if there's someone who knows how to get the best out of a shockingly bad car, it is Fernando Alonso. The thing with Alonso is obviously the mental and age thing. I feel like if he has like a similar thing to what Hamilton had last season, um, where he just kind of gives up, like just doesn't really fight for anything, and it's a bit depressing. But I just think it's just how things will possibly go. I think he's kind of banking on 2026. If 2026 doesn't go well, he's out of F1 entirely. I don't think he's like no one's going to want to pay his salary for a 45,000-year-old driver. So yeah, it's this year. He's just going to deal with it. Yeah, I think he's going to have a lot of say, along with Adrian Newey, with how he wants the car to be developed. 'Cause I think they will do it for him. We'll get onto his teammate in a bit, but later. But yeah, I think he's going to do very well this season. I think he'll get like 1 or 2 odd podiums. You know, at a track where Aston Martin will just suddenly just be there. Or if it's a wet race, we've seen what he's done in the wets when he was like an Alpine and Aston Martin. He was there. That podium at Zandvoort last year, not last year, year before, out of nowhere when it was wet, was proof of that. Next, we have Antonelli. Now, this has been a really, really hard one. Him and Lawson, I will say, because you've got pretty much nothing to go off. They're in the faster teams. I don't think they're in the 2 fastest teams. I think that McLaren and Ferrari are a bit ahead of the 2 of them. What Mercedes are planning, I don't know. They might just do a thing and just jump out nowhere in 2026, but I've got him in 7th now. This is going to be a massive learning year. If he can get close-ish to Russell, who I'll talk about later, I think he's going to do a good job. I personally think, we'll get to him as well later. Lawson, I think he will beat Lawson, because I think personally Mercedes by the end is probably going to be a quicker car. But yeah, I just think Antonelli, massive learning curve. He's the youngest driver on the grid. He's almost 2 years younger than me, and that makes me feel like a pensioner. You know, bad back and all. But yeah, Antonelli, I think he's got potential to be a brilliant driver in F1, and it would just be interesting to see how it goes. We haven't had a good, barely had an Italian driver since Giovinazzi. Before then, it was like Fisichella. No, not like a prominent Italian driver. So you know, he'll be popular at Monza, I assume. Maybe not as much as these two, but we'll see. Next, we have the Bear of Man. Now, this is one that was quite hard to do. Obviously, he's crashed in practice, and I'm worried that he's going to crash quite a bit, which Haas are probably wishing they didn't have. I've got him in. Okay, well, technically, I have him in 18th, but in terms of the current grid, it's 17th. And I think he's gonna learn quite a bit from Ocon. Hopefully they don't fall out as teammates too quickly. I know people saying that with Ocon because he always falls out, but stop hating on him. I think Haas will have a decent package at certain tracks. I just don't think Ollie Behrman's got the ability yet to capitalise on it. I don't know if it's probably because all this simulator stuff, part of me, has been with like Ferrari, etc. But then again, when he did have his free practice sessions in the Haas, he was somewhat there or thereabouts with like Magnussen, and Magnussen was a good driver in my eyes. And then when he was in like Magnussen's seat and with Hulkenberg, he was also doing good results. Obviously, that Brazilian Grand Prix wasn't a good showing, as Azerbaijan and obviously Saudi Arabia were great. So maybe I have underappreciated him a bit. Don't know, but who knows? Him obviously in a full season is completely different to doing the one-off race. So we'll have a good look. Bortoletto, this isn't to do with him or anything. I think he's a great driver, but I have put him last. Technically, in my list, he's 21st, but he's going 20th out of the current 20. Not his own fault. I just think Sauber's going to be the worst car on the grid, and Hulkenberg is. I think it's a thing of if he gets like, close-ish to Hulkenberg, then he's got a great chance of having a future. Hulkenberg is a really talented driver, as much as his lack of podiums and everything says. But yeah, he's going to do well, I think, in my eyes. Next, Jack Doohan. Okay, on the current list of drivers, I have him 18th. I don't think he's going to last the season. I think, if Bashir and Briatore is still about, he's going to be very cutthroat with this and he will just chop him off. It's tough. I feel like he's probably like the rookie with the least expectation out of everyone. Behrman, Antonelli, Hadjar, Bortoletto, they all come in with like, oh yeah, this person's going to do pretty well with this, or this person's going to do pretty well with that, and all that. And yeah, just I don't expect anything from him. Hopefully he does if he starts off well, then who knows? Then my whole prediction there being 21 drivers, with obviously Colapinto being the driver to replace him. I just haven't bothered with getting a picture of him on here because I don't really know how to. But that sounds like a me problem. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how all of this goes. Maybe actually, if I just if we just imagined Colapinto, so I have Colapinto 16th. So anyone who I say is like 16th or below, just push them down one. That's literally all it is. Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly, I think, is going to have a very good season. I've got him in 11th on my list. I think the Alpine looks very up and down, but I think it's going to be a similar thing to last year. I think they might start off a bit slow, but towards the end they're going to pick up quite a bit. Obviously, the main reason he jumped up in the standings at the end was because of that Brazilian Grand Prix where they got second and third in that crazy race. But yeah, this year I think he'll have a good stand-up performances. He'll get quite a few sixth places, which just kind of firmly puts you into this region here. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes down as far as 14th because the Alpine might not be as good as I'm thinking it is. And pretty much, yeah, he's a good driver, easily in the top half of all of them. Obviously, that's hard to say when 5 of them are brand new, but definitely nowadays is much better than his Red Bull self 6 years ago. But not much to say on him on the whole. Next up, Isaac Hadjar. Now, this is hard to tell because the racing balls in practice were actually really good, but obviously testing, they were absolutely shocking. I don't know if this is so. I think I might have undervalued where Hadjar is actually going to come. We don't know the proper speed or anything of the racing balls, but I think Sonoda theoretically is going to do much better than him. But we'll see. This is probably I think Hadjar was probably the person I struggled the most with. Maybe with Behrman as well, just because the racing balls of the Haas, I've got no idea where they actually are on track. I think they're going to get beaten by their teammates for the pair of them, but they will still have like their moments. Like they might not get points. They might have like a really good race and get like 10th or whatever, and that will be seen as a great race. I do think maybe everyone other than Bortoleto is going to score this season. That's not Bortoleto's fault again. That's just kick, stake, whatever. Sauber just harming them. But yeah. Next up, Lores Hamilton. Oh, actually, tell you what, I'm going to leave because the top six are probably the top six that everyone's predicting. So I'll leave that for last and then go sixth, fifth, fourth, third, second, first. So Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg, I have 17th overall, just below Colapinto, assuming he was in the sport. But he is 16th on my thing out the current drivers. I think he's going to absolutely tug the living hell out of that thing. A bit like how Bottas did in his first year at Sauber at the start. Just kind of outperform the car massively, maybe fall off a bit towards the end, because I think Kick, Sauber are going to just go full in for their 2026 with Audi and use all of their development time on that. Because if you think about it, them coming last 2 seasons in a row, that aero time is going into something, and it's clearly not this year's car. So maybe they do have a bit of intimidating factors with them in the future. And if you have Hulkenberg, I think Bortoleto of the Year experience could prove quite valuable in that regard. But other than that, not much more to add. Hopefully, we get a freak podium because that's all we just want from Hulkenberg. But I think 2026 Hulkenberg's a big one to look out for, assuming Audi get it right. And that's honestly what we hope for. We just hope for more competitiveness up here. Next up, Liam Lawson. He is next to his rookie pal, Anta Smelly Nelly. Lawson is another tough one to predict. I just think the Red Bull isn't actually going to be that good. I think it's going to be like a 2015 kind of thing, but instead of McLaren being there, it was like Williams, where he'll kind of take like a Kvyat approach. And yeah, he'll get like the odd podium here or there, but I don't think he's going to have like a season that blows us away. I mean, he's against the best driver on the grid, let's be honest. And if he just gets anywhere close, he's not going to get replaced halfway through the season. Ricardo's not going to come in, smiley, whatever. He's better than Ricardo. Ricardo done with F1, in my opinion, at this point. But yeah, he's got a lot to prove because I think he's got the most pressure in his seat, along with Antonelli, because they're in top teams very early on their career, and people are very unsure on what they can actually compete with. Anyway, next up we have Ocon. Ocon is predicted for me 13th. I think Ocon is overhated, and all of you should shut up. Personally, I think he has the ability to do some really good things in this Haas. If they can, the issue of Haas is they go for like a big development upgrade thing and they mess it up massively, and then they spend the rest of the season trying to fix that original thing, and then go back to their original A spec, and there you go. That's their race. That's their season, sorry, and then they just end up falling off massively. I think Ocon will hopefully be able to steer in the right direction. He knows, like based from like being in Force India / Racing Point. I mean, he's been in a manor. He's been in worse cars. I think he will have the ability to outperform the car and get some pretty decent results at points as well. I also think the people that are going to be below him. I mean, we were going on about the Hassan Racing Bull things. We'll get onto Sonoda in a bit. It's kind of one of those things that you're just not really sure. And I'm 100% sure Sauber is going to be the worst car on the grid. And then from that point, it's just I've got no idea. Next up, skipping these five, just these three to rank them before we get to the top six. Carlos Sainz, my personal favourite driver. He's going 10th. I think the Williams is looking very good. I think Albon and Sainz's ability to develop the Williams very well. And it's just, now that they actually have some kind of financial backing, who knows? They could make a big difference in the season at points. I think Sainz has the ability to get like the odd top five. He has some tracks that he just gets with very well, and hopefully, I mean, the Williams generally is a bit kinder on their tyres as well, assuming it's not like just driving style related thing. I know it plays a part, but some chassis are like that, and Sainz could very much benefit from that. That was kind of an issue he had in his Ferrari days, and it'll just be interesting to see if the Williams can keep up, because we love seeing Williams fighting at the top because it's Williams, man. That's all I've really got to say with that. Not much more to add with him other than, yeah, I think it'll be very close. I think it's kind of a thing where, whilst Gasly, I say that, Sainz is very much here, Alonso is very much here, and Albon's very much like, Albon could be any of these six, to be honest. Anyway, next up, Lance Stroll, 16th. I don't really know what to say. He can try and, oops, sorry, I've done that the wrong way around. He can try and do anything to win me over, but the chance of it happening quite low. Not just because of his just because of his reputation. Like, what is he? I just don't understand people. I, if he can prove me wrong, good. But it's taken too long. Like, this is his ninth season in F1. For Christ's sake, he should be better. He should be closer to a 43, 4, 5, 4, 4. Yeah, he's 81, isn't he? Alonso. I know Alonso's a bloody miracle man, but no, he should be doing better. And Sonoda, similar with Ocon, and similar with Bear and Hadjar. I've got no idea whether Racing Bulls, VCARB, Toro, so AlphaTauri, whatever they are, they're somewhere. And I think, yeah, I think it's fair to say that they will be ahead. I think the only place that it can reasonably drop down is if the Aston Martin's much better and Stroll jumps ahead of them. It's an interesting thing, but yeah, it's. I'm just not sure with what's happening with anything with the Racing Bulls. Will they develop much? Obviously, with the thing with Red Bull not being as good, it's not a thing where, like Ferrari and Haas loan parts, or the Racing Bulls are the biggest mystery for me, especially after how well they did in practice. But I think that is an accurate prediction for them based off nothing. Now we get to the big six. In sixth place, George Russell. I think this is just a general Russell, like the gap between Russell, who's a sick, I'd say something needs to be big. Russell needs to beat Antonelli well this year if he wants to just be seen in a competitive way. Sorry for the notification on my phone there. Um, he seems to be a bit less of a prat as well. I don't know what's gotten into the British drivers recently of like British based teams, but just need to sort their attitude out, man. I mean, I know you've got to have a bit of arrogance going into everything, but I just don't get it, man. I think he'll have like some very good points. I think he will get a win. I think everyone in the top six will get a win at some point this season because everyone I think is going to have different competitiveness at different tracks. I think he'll have just the one win this season unless there's like something crazy happening. But yeah, I think he's now that he's very clearly the first driver and he is the focal point. Unless Antonelli shines crazily, he needs to build on this. Assuming Mercedes have got a competitive package for next year, so he can fight for the championship. In fifth place, we have the Aussie boy. This was third, fourth, and fifth were very hard, in my opinion. Piastri, he has so much potential. In fact, I think this is going to be a very close championship this year, and probably because we're close to having a rule change, it is going to be very close. Piastri, I think, definitely had a great season last year. He had some bits where he was arguably better than Norris, but I think it was just the overall consistency at the end, the typical Aussie consistency that never really happens. Something tells me he's going to have a bit of bad luck in the season as well, and that's why I can just see it. He's going to be the sacrificial lamb. He's probably the only person that will properly be able to fill it. I don't think Lawson will be close enough for it for Max or and these two are going to be fighting the whole season. So I think Piastri's that's the plus for McLaren. He's the only person who will be a sacrificial lamb, like used as one. I still think he'll get like the odd win or two in the season, but I think that'll be towards the end when the championship's possibly wrapped up, or something's happened to his teammate. Anyway, fourth place. This was probably the toughest one to pick. Max Verstappen. I don't think he's going to win the championship this year. I think he'll be in a fight at the start, but I think Red Bull will fall off and focus on 2026 because they need to live on that package if they want to have a chance for Max to stay there. I think it's going to be quite a grumpy season for him. I think he'll get quite a few wins, but I think it's going to be like he could get like 5 wins, but like maybe 2 extra podiums. I think he might have one of those seasons. It's going to be very up and down. It's going to be very roller coaster. I think he might have his fair share of bad luck as well. Um, who knows? We haven't seen angry like bargy wargy Max for a while now. We saw it a tiny bit. We don't want to be seeing that. We don't want to having the nicknames come back because it's very cringy. And if you say those cringe nicknames, you're terrible and should just no, just don't do it. It's just not good for the sport. We don't need constant fighting all the time, and that's my Squaremore tip for the day. Anyway, third place, Lewis Hamilton. I don't know what my expectation is. He should be raring to go. I feel like he might do much better in 2026. He's going to have to adjust a bit, so he might be a bit behind, and I think we're seeing that in practice. But who knows? Hopefully, by the end of the season, we'll see him be like pretty much on par with Leclerc, and that can make them a threat in the constructors. I do think Ferrari are going to win the constructors this year. I don't whether for the drivers you'll see in a second, but that doesn't really matter right now. Hamilton will get a few wins. If he wins at Monza, Jesus Christ, the world is going to absolutely explode in Central Europe. But yeah, or Western, South, I don't know, Southern Mediterranean Europe. You know what I mean. Anyway, second place, Charles Leclerc. I, uh, I don't know, man. See, it gets so confused. The top five could beat anything. Other than I don't think Piastri has a chance of the championship. I think he could get like third or whatever. But the top four, it's all a muddle mess. And I mean, this is the most painful top four I've ever had to predict in my life for anything. I'd rather predict Arsenal to win the treble 5 years in a row or whatever. But yeah, Leclerc. I've put Leclerc in the championship, but oops, he's going to be there. I'm worried I still don't think he just has it in him. I think if this was Hamilton, like if I put Hamilton in Leclerc's shoes and he was to, he's been at the team for 6 years, very competitive car. I think Hamilton would win the championship because Hamilton's got this adjusting period to deal with. I don't think he will. And Leclerc, I still don't think he has the grit, which is a bit ironic considering I still don't think Norris does. But based on the McLaren, it should be too overpowered for anything. So we'll see. Speaking of which, come on, you Teletubby. I I hate doing this. I hate this. I physically hate this with my own eyes. This hurts me. I don't. I, it, you know, he's not going to be the worst world champion because Jacques Villeneuve exists. But if people were going to say to me, "Oh, the best one-time world champions," I'd probably. I mean, now I've got to think who's actually a one-time world champion. But you just, you'd be like, oh, James Hunt, things he did in that McLaren against Lauda, incredible. Nigel Mansell, that Nigel Mansell's the best one-time world champion in my eyes. Norris ends up sliding down all the way to like the bottom five. Jacques Villeneuve, Jody Scheckter. I say that when I was like minus God knows how long when he won it, but some drivers just they win the championship and think, oh yeah, Phil Hill. Like, who did? I bet some of you don't even know who Phil Hill is. He's American. That's when you know. That's when you know. It's crazy. But yeah, he will. Assuming McLaren, which I think he will, don't mess it up. If in fact, I was going to say this. After a few races, it looks like McLaren clearly the quickest car, which I think they are, based off race pace especially. If McLaren don't win both championships, then they've bottled it. Even if they might win the constructors but not the drivers, then the drivers bottled it. Or if they've not won the constructors but won the drivers, then the team has bottled it. Like, or more Piastri or Norris, whatever. That's just my personal opinion, definitely not biased at all. But let me know your predictions for the season. We'll come back to this. Remember, there's the imaginary Colapinto here. Actually, hold on. How about this then? Do this. And then, oh no, that's the right click. Hold on me. Colapinto. There we go. Colapinto. 15th is Color. No, I mean that's Colapinto now. Anyways, thank you people for watching. We'll come back to this at the end of the season. And yeah, I'll see you all later. Goodbye.